The so-called Arab Spring has been a winter of persecution for Christians in particular, who are being driven out as Sharia is driven in. Like the Jews before them, Christians are being ethnically cleansed from Muslim countries, but the Western media don't want to talk about it because it means having to focus on the hateful supremacist doctrine of Islam, an ideology that confers inferior status on non-believers and demands their submission as dhimmis. Those noble Egyptian soldiers who refused to fire on their Muslim brothers during the revolution had no such qualms about shooting unarmed Christians in the street for protesting against unprovoked Muslim violence. Such is the insanity that even in Syria, despite being murdered in their thousands by their own government, the rebels have found time to put Christians on notice to leave. Now, I'm no fan of Christianity, but I am a fan of civilization and justice, and both of those things seem to be in very short supply in a part of the world where Christianity is being systematically erased, while the Christian President of the United States says nothing and looks the other way for fear of causing offence. He is a Christian, isn't he? I know some people think Obama is a Muslim because his middle name is Hussein, and because he bowed to the Saudi king like a vassal, and because he sucks up to Islam every chance he gets, because he humiliated his country by apologising to Islamic terrorists, and because his administration is crippled by a chronic political correctness that empowers jihadis pretending to be Americans. But I wouldn't say that makes the president a Muslim. I'd say that makes him a dhimmi, and I think he and his administration are doing their best to turn the United States into a dhimmi nation. Recently he welcomed the election of an Islamist president in Egypt, a man who during his campaign, a campaign supported by the US government, made the statement, "The Quran is our constitution, the Prophet is our leader, jihad is our path, and death in the name of Allah is our goal." A man who belongs to an organisation that has vowed in its charter to infiltrate Western society and destroy it from within. In short, the new Egyptian president is a jihadi, which is a word the Obama administration can't even bring itself to use in case somebody gets offended. It's actually quite amusing to watch an American government spokesman wriggling around trying not to say the words Islamic or jihad when talking about Islamic jihad, until you realise the level of denial you're actually witnessing, and you can't help but wonder if it's possible to trust this person's judgment or their word about anything at all. Oh, and you might like to know that despite the First Amendment, the Obama administration is behaving on the world stage as if free speech is actually negotiable. Right now they're engaged in dialogue with a bunch of Islamic dictatorships to help them find ways of curbing free speech through the United Nations Human Rights Council, when what passes for human rights in any of those places will be against the law in the civilized world, and the only dialogue any of them deserve is 3 short words: go to hell. Oh, and P.S. stop murdering Christians. Obama wants to be cosy with Islam because he's got an Islamic background himself, and because he wants to be cosy with the third world in general. He isn't just America's first black president, he's America's first third world president, and that's his problem. There must be a part of Obama that just feels so guilty about going to America, becoming successful and leaving all those people behind, that he just has to reach out and say, "Hey people, it's me, Barry, you still like me, don't you?" But they don't like him because they despise weakness, especially in the Islamic world. And there he's even less popular than George W. Bush, which is something I'd have thought a person would have to work at. But Obama has managed it effortlessly. And he's getting less popular in the first world as well, because people can see how he deals with Islamic extremists, and they can see that he's not actually fit to be President of the United States. Now, don't get me wrong, he may be fit to lead another country, a European country perhaps, where fundamental rights are not quite so important. Besides, he's a European by instinct anyway, an accommodationist, a compromiser, a dhimmi. He doesn't realise that the American president has a duty beyond America to the whole free world to stand up for American values, not third world values, because despite all the propaganda, they are not, in fact, equal. If Christians are being persecuted in the Muslim world purely because of their religion, and they are, the American president has a duty to speak out loudly and often until somebody listens. Instead, this president chooses to remain silent. He chooses to continue shoveling bucket loads of American taxpayers' money into the Arab world without even a polite request that they stop murdering Christians. And if you think that's slimy, every year the US State Department issues a report on the state of human rights in all UN member countries. This year, for the first time, they removed the section on religious freedom, thus neatly sidestepping the need to acknowledge the violent persecution of Christians since the glorious revolution for freedom and democracy. Who would have thought that the United States of all countries would so cravenly turn its back on persecuted Christians in their darkest hour just so as not to offend their Muslim persecutors? America, thanks to this president, is already a Dhimmi nation. Peace.